Yes.
Hello to everybody who's dialing in this afternoon, tuning in for the Care Vision's Healthy Aging conversation. We'll start with this week's guest, Ian Sherriff, at 4 o'clock. But meanwhile, I'll just fill in for a couple of minutes as people come online, get their cups of tea and get settled in for this Care Vision's Healthy Aging conversation. I'm Jeremy Hughes and I'm hosting this on behalf of Care Visions, who are the organisers of this weekly conversation, which is all about helping people to live better as they get older and to appreciate that as we get older and as we develop issues like dementia and other issues, we can carry on living well and living as part of our communities. And today's conversation will be exactly about that. Just while we're coming up to 4 o'clock, just wanted to highlight some of the new material that's available from Care Visions. They're producing video material every week to help people live better as they cope with coronavirus lockdown and as they live with developing dementia, as they just want to live well as an older person. The latest development is a wonderful program hosted by Stephanie McConnell called Guess the Musical. And it's a short 6 or 7 minute long quiz to help you guess famous musicals from clips and questions she asks you. So if you want to check whether you know the right musical and can put the music to the film and the title all together, then tune in to Guess the Musical, which is available on the Facebook and YouTube pages of Care Visions. The one I liked particularly was the one that features the Venus flytrap, but don't shout out the answers now because everybody will hear you. Go online and go to Guess the Musical quiz on the Care Visions pages. The other one that's new is a lovely presentation by the dementia therapist Laura Bolton, who's taken a famous painting from the National Gallery collection, and with the National Gallery has developed a meditation that any of us can do. So if you just want to have a quiet time, you want to escape some of the hustle and bustle of daily life, then go to the YouTube or Facebook pages of Care Vision for the meditation activity with the National Gallery painting, and it's by Redon, painted probably around 1905, Ophelia Amongst the Flowers, a beautiful painting. And I've never thought about using painting for meditation before and famous works of art, but the National Gallery have got that sorted out. So that's available as well. So it's now just about 4 o'clock and I'm delighted to welcome Ian Sherriff BEM, who is our guest this afternoon for the Healthy Aging live conversation. Welcome, Ian. Just tell me a little bit about how you managed to get to the accolade, I think a few years ago now, probably in 2016, wasn't it, when Plymouth became the national dementia-friendly city, one of the first cities, I think, in fact, the first city to be acknowledged as dementia-friendly. How did that come about?
Well, first of all, good afternoon, everybody. Lovely to be able to join you. I'm speaking to you from deep in the heart of rural Devon. And I was going to say the sun was out, but it's decided to go in. How did I start that journey for a dementia-friendly city? Well, it all started way back before then in about 2010. And I was with a colleague of mine, Professor George Giarci, and we had this idea, or I had the idea, to actually operationalize, because there was a Dementia Alliance in London, and that was organizations working together. And I said, why don't we emulate that, but actually make it more local? Clearly, we didn't have any money, we didn't have any admin support, etc. So I coerced the Lord Mayor of Plymouth to come and help us. And she thought, well, she was just going to be the spokesperson. We actually convinced her office to send out lots and lots of letters, invitations. And we went on the radio, the BBC local radio. I think when I say about just we went to see the BBC have been fantastic support in all the work that we're doing down here in the West Country, and I give them a special mention. They also helped me with my 2 Prime Minister's challenge groups and my global group that I chair.
Okay, we'll come on to those in a moment, Ian, but tell me a bit more about what does the BBC actually do that makes a difference? Have they changed their programming, or what have they done to help people who are developing dementia to live well in the community?
Yeah, well, what we did with them, we got all their presenters and their producers into a room and we talked about dementia and how that affects people. And it's quite interesting. Quite a few of the presenters of BBC Radio Devon had family members. And when we started to talk about how the radio could engage people with dementia, not only through making programs, but also the way that they broadcast. And so they became the first dementia-friendly radio station. But going back to how did we get this thing off the ground, the Lord Mayor very kindly gave us her offices. We sent letters out to everybody and we invited them to a meeting to launch it. I think the launch was at 10:30 in the morning, one morning. And by 10 o'clock, there was me, the Lord Mayor, and George Giarci and a couple of other people. By 10:30, the conference room in the near the Lord Mayor's parlour was absolutely full. And all we did, we spoke about what our dream was, what we wanted the city to be. We wanted a place where people with dementia and their families felt welcome, that they could go about as normal as possible and enjoy, going to the swimming pool, going to the cinema, coming to council meetings, etc., that the local NHS were made dementia friendly. And so to date, we have 120 companies on that alliance. We launched it with the Lord Mayor. We didn't let anybody out of the room until they'd signed the document, but we gave them tea and coffee. And I'm just amazed. Every month we have our strategic meetings or strategy meetings, and it isn't like a normal company type thing. Everybody has a say, and it's just gone from strength to strength. And as I say, 120 companies now, and we were very lucky to win the accolade of Dementia Friendly City of the Year. But it sounds
like you well deserved it. So congratulations on that. Part of what makes a difference as people develop dementia is some of the material that Care Visions produces, the videos, the therapy that's available, the community centre services and so on. But I think what you're telling us is that in Plymouth, it's about everyday life. It's about enabling people to go shopping, to go to the cinema. If I'm in the high street in Plymouth, what would be different that would help me feel that I was being supported as a person with dementia?
I think the first thing would be that we obviously got every company that signed up to this to have an action plan. And so they would say, this year we're going to do A, B, and C. All our staff are going to have dementia awareness. And the other good thing, I convinced Plymouth City Council, well, they didn't need much convincing, to fund a full-time worker to support the Dementia Alliance in the city. So Claire Puckey, she goes out doing dementia awareness sessions. Is your building dementia friendly? Slight changes you can make here and there. And so I suppose what you would see if you came onto the high street, there will be signs in shops saying, we are dementia friendly. We belong to the Plymouth Dementia Action Alliance. And hopefully, I mean, there's always going to be one that slips through the net, but you get treated the same as anybody else, and people are there to help you. So we have people help you to shopping, etc. The other thing that's come online, which has come out of the Prime Minister's Air Transport Group that I chair, is the lanyard and the Sunfowl lanyard. And so I've seen those being extensively used around Plymouth by people with all sorts of hidden disabilities. So it's grown in its stature and it's grown in its size over the years.
And it sounds like, as you recognise, that dementia is just one of a number of hidden disabilities that people live with in society. But let me just go back in time, because you yourself, you've taken Plymouth on a journey over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, but you yourself have been on a bit of a journey. So you started out in the Fleet Air Arm, you then ended up becoming a social worker, and now you've ended up at Plymouth University. How did that come about? Because you seem to have built 3 lives into one.
Well, that's right. I've had three careers, and let's hope there's a 4th one. But I've reached the tender age of 75, and I was reluctantly reminded by my students that I teach, our young medics and nurses, paramedics here in the university, that I was older than the NHS. So I did thank them for that comment. but yes, I left home and joined the Fleet Air Arm and spent 25 years traveling the world. During my time in the Fleet Air Arm, as I was coming to the end of it, I was very lucky to be asked to go to Bristol University to do a short sort of naval social worker course. And I became a what they call a family welfare person. And I was asked to go down to Plymouth. So I did that for 18 months, 2 years. That then led me on to go to the university and do my social work course. And from the social work course, I went out into Efford and Devonport here in Plymouth straight away as a social worker with a generic case, but also as a community development person. And I managed in Efford and Devonport to have, in the first year, I slept on the streets so that somebody said to me, what does that community need? What's it like? And I thought the only way I can do that is sleep on the streets. So I got a couple of old doors, put them up against the wall in Efford, and put a burner outside, a 25-gallon drum or 50-gallon drum, topped it up with wood and coal, and put some soup on and tea, and just slept on the street. Well, the first day, people obviously thought there was something radically wrong with me. On the second day, it started to get better. People were bringing their chairs and sat round. And by the fourth day, I tried to get near the fire, and people said, who are you? Get out. This is our fire. And so a community started to talk to each other. I know I wrote a small paper for, I think it was Social Work Today, to say, you don't need loads and loads of social work. Just put fires on each street corner and people will come out.
That's a lovely message. And that seems to be reflected in what you've done with the dementia-friendly community. So lots of people retire in their 60s and think it's time to hang up their shoes and put their books away and so on. Do you have a message for anyone who's retiring about what they can do? Because you seem to have developed a whole new lease of life in retirement. Is that something that you'd recommend to people?
I would. I mean, but, you know, it's an individual decision. But I mean, here I am, 75. I've got 3 or 4 major research programs going on. My legs still work. I still get a kick out of getting out of bed in the morning. So, I mean, I think, you know, this is just me saying this, but as you get older, I do think we become a little bit wiser, and we do have a lot to offer society. And sometimes that voice is lost in the haze of all the other things that are going on. And I saw that. Go on, sorry.
No, I was just going to go back to what you were saying about being in the Fleet Air Arm and coming to Plymouth, because of course it's a major naval dockyard. Have you got the Navy involved in it being dementia friendly? Is it relevant to them that it's a dementia friendly city?
Yes, we had the Commodore Naval Barracks, who not only got involved, we had a big launch, a dinner, and we had the first, I think it was the first, dementia-friendly cafe for veterans, a veterans cafe, and the Commodore used to lend us 2 serving or 3 serving people every time it met, so that they stimulated conversations. Us silly old veterans, you know, you get us together and we talk about where we were, what we did. That happened in this group, where these ladies and gentlemen who were in other groups didn't open up too much. When they were in that group with other people in uniforms serving people, it was amazing to watch what happened. And so yes, and our service community here in Plymouth is massive. I think at the last score it's over 40,000 veterans or ex-service personnel in Plymouth.
Sounds really, really important. But now, when you move out of Plymouth, it's no good just being dementia friendly in Plymouth. You want to make sure it's dementia friendly wherever you go and that you can get there. So you mentioned in passing a minute ago the air transport group. Just tell me a little bit more about that, because it does seem that one of the problems people face as they get older generally, and particularly when they get dementia, is feeling that it's not safe to go flying. They don't feel they'll be supported when they get to the airport. What have you done to make that different?
Well, there was a person called Angela Rippon, and Jeremy Hughes asked me to go away and start the Dementia Air Transport Challenge Group. And so I was coming back down to the West Country, thought, my goodness, where do I go? Anyhow, I managed to get leaders in the field of airports, security at airports, baggage, pilots, cabin crew, ground crew, OTs, people living with dementia and their families, a whole group of us. I got us together, and the Bishop of Plymouth at the time had a wonderful big house. So I invited everybody to come to that, and he did a wonderful lunch in front of a big roaring fire. So that lulled everybody into a full sense of security. And that's when we said, right, this is what we're going to try and do. We're going to try and change the whole way that people with hidden disabilities, dementia, autism, etc., are treated when they go to an airport. And we had to do that also within a simulator. So everybody asked me when we got this really going, well, which simulator did you use? Was it at Heathrow or Gatwick? I said, no, we used the one in Chudley down here in Devon, and there's one in Devon. So we went there, and it's like arriving at an airport. There's the bing de bong and the people saying your flight leaves in a minute, and they've got a full cabin. And with people who can, seating, and people come around with a trolley, and they can simulate an aircraft, doing whatever. And so we did that with people with dementia. I then managed to get the Secretary of State for Transport on the group as well, and the CAA. They are the regulatory authority for all aircraft organizations in this country. And between us, we managed to get a set of standards that the airports in the United Kingdom were going to use and meet. And it's just gone wildfire. So now every airport in the United Kingdom has these set of standards and is meeting them. The lanyard that was brought out by Ruth Rabbit, who is down at Gatwick, has now gone global. And as far as the airports, we've actually succeeded. What we're doing now is trying to influence airports around the globe. And on our group now, we have people from various airports in the United States, Canada, Singapore, China, the continent. And we've just had some people join from Africa and Australia. So you can see it's a simple idea, and the enthusiasm is there to change, and that's what's happened. And I'm really proud of the work that team did. It was quite
That's really impressive. So if I'm a person, an older person with a hidden disability going to an airport, does that mean I can get the lanyard, and what does that mean in practice? How does it work?
Right. First of all, we hope that your wherever you book your travel will have an understanding of this. One of the biggest things we had to do was, when people with hidden disabilities go to book their holidays, they don't say, the person says, have you a disability? And they don't see it as a disability. So we had to get that changed. So what should happen is, when you arrive at the airport, you'll be asked to go to the customer assistance area. There you will be seated. You'll hopefully that should you need to be taken through security, etc., you will be taken through. You'll be wearing a lanyard, if you wish, that depicts that you have a hidden disability. It doesn't say that, it's just a coloured lanyard. There are special routes for you to go. There is quiet rooms for you. A lot of people say they don't really want to go through duty free because the perfumes, etc., interfere with their life. And so all of this has been worked through. The other bit is, I flew out to America just before lockdown last year, and that lanyard and the British Airways team, who were involved in the airlines as well, were absolutely brilliant. As far as this person came on, they said, right, well, you'll need a bit more seat room. So they gave her a different seat. So the whole journey from start to finish should be as best as you can make it, trouble-free and assisted.
That sounds a real achievement. And of course, one of the benefits is bringing people to Plymouth for what you now have is one of the big international conferences every year for people with dementia and their families. Just tell me a little bit about the conference that you organise in Plymouth.
Well, I think we're on our 7th year. It started off with about, I don't know, 40 people. And then we went big time. And I think now we have 400 to 500 people come down. We have speakers from all over the globe. And we have stalls and so I think, and sort of the last one, I think we had 400 people plus about 60 stalls. And we had speakers from China, America, Canada. What I did, I linked up my global group, and so they beamed live into the conference, and it was yeah, it worked well. I was on tenterhooks the night beforehand because the guy was saying, well, I don't know if this dongle is going to work or whatever they call them, but dead on the dot, 10 o'clock in the morning, America, Canada, Australia, they all came up online, and it was
that's amazing. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
brilliant. So I'm gonna come back and just ask you a few more questions about some of the other work you've been doing. But just to say to anybody who's watching at the moment who wants to ask a question, please go to the chat function and you can ask a question that I'll put to Ian in a few minutes. I've already got a couple of questions coming in. So anyone else who wants to ask a question, this is your opportunity to find out more about what has been the secret of making Plymouth dementia friendly, or any of the other aspects of what we're talking about this afternoon. I was going to go on, Ian, and ask you a little bit about people outside of the city, because it's all very well to say you're going to make Plymouth dementia friendly, but what about people who live in the countryside? What can be done? Because often older people or people with dementia outside of towns are even more isolated and find it difficult to get the support they need. What have you been doing? Because I know you've been heading up a rural communities group. What difference are you making to people who live outside of the cities?
Well, this is once again is the Prime Minister's Challenge Group for Rural Dementia, and what we did, we got the all the different organisations around. So Rabbi, which is Royal Agricultural Benevolent Institute, Community Farming Network, the WI, parish councils, the churches, the schools, all people who are involved in rural life. And we said to them, how can we make a difference? Well, one of the biggest things I think in rural communities is the parish council. That's not the church, that's the lowest form of government. So what we did, we started off influencing the WI, influencing farming networks. So we had a piece of research into dementia in the farming industry. We managed to get a slot on the country file, and we just to get the message out. And one of the key things we've done now is that we've got 5 parish councils working together here in rural Devon. They've funded a worker, and that worker is supporting 65 families in that community. And what they've done, they've set up groups. They're not just specifically for people with dementia. Anybody can go to them. And I know when the Chinese came over, they said, well, who's got dementia in this group? And I said, I'm not telling you. It's about integration, not separation.
Yeah, yeah. So you've mentioned a couple of times about China, and of course, Care Visions as an organisation with its healthy aging programme runs them in China as well as the UK. But it sounds like you've got quite a strong link into China, which of course is topical at the moment. Everyone's talking about China. You've developed a link between the university and people in China?
Yes, we have. I have an MOU with a university. We for 2 years we were teaching, myself, Dr. Velman, and other members of the team down in Shanghai in Hoyu, and fantastic. We were teaching their nurses and they came over here. So we've done that. We've also had people come over from Macau, and Macau is the sort of the epicenter of our work at the moment with Bill, as I won't go into his full name, there. And no, I think we've enjoyed each other's company, but we've also shared ideas, thoughts, and Bill is trying to emulate what he's seen not only in Plymouth, but around the United Kingdom as far as dementia friendly, and also in Japan as well. I was in Japan last year speaking at their national conference, and their enthusiasm to get something done is amazing. And so they are working really hard to ensure that their population who have dementia are as well cared for as possible.
And people often say that Japan is more supportive and more appreciative of older people than we are in the UK. Do you think that's true? Is there more recognition of the contribution of older people?
I think in their society, you grow as you grow old. You're seen as growing wiser. Now, whether that will last this new generation, this new world that we're living, I don't know. But definitely, every morning outside my hotel, when I stayed there, older people are doing their exercises. They're valued. They're offered respect and dignity by their youngsters. So what I observed was very good. I mean, I can only speak for the bit I saw, but it felt that they, yes, are held in revere.
Yeah, it sounds like quite a big difference from sometimes what you see here. And I've actually, it leads into one question that's just come in from Jeanette, who says, Plymouth sounds great as a dementia-friendly city. She lives in the East End of Glasgow and says her experience has been very poor. What chances are there of getting dementia-friendly communities emerging across the UK?
What are the chances of merging or getting more?
Or getting more of them developing across the UK?
I think, all these things seem to start from a very small gem of an idea. And what was the person's name again?
Jeanette.
Jeanette. I, for my sins, my family come from the island of Barra in the Outer Hebrides. So my understanding is that in Scotland, there are dementia-friendly communities. I know that on one of the groups I have, that we got people from Scotland. Scotland, I think, still has a dementia council which sits in wherever the Scottish government's meeting at the moment, and advises on issues around dementia. So yes, it will be difficult if it's just you, Jeanette, but my understanding is if I'd have stopped at the first hurdle all those years ago, it wouldn't have happened. So you do need that enthusiasm, drive, and sometimes, and lots of energy. But you can get there. I've seen it in other cities. London is trying to become dementia friendly.
It sounds like from what you said, Ian, that one thing that made a big difference was getting the mayor or the provost, or the leading figure in the city, to take responsibility, because there are many, many people developing dementia, living with dementia, hidden away in the cities who need support. And this seems a great way that the council can demonstrate a difference. But Jeanette can probably also turn to Alzheimer's Scotland for advice and putting her in touch with other people as well, I'm sure. Another question that's come in, which I'd like to ask you, is it says here, in my experience, talking to children about dementia and aging generally has always been a real challenge. Ian, what do you think we can do to get school children more aware of the needs of older people?
I think what happened a few years ago was that Angela Rippon, who's part of our sort of little group, wanted all schools to become dementia aware or elderly people's issues. And we managed to get 22 schools to go on a program. And I was delighted that Stoke Damerel College here in Plymouth sort of won the accolade of doing very well at this. But we were teaching it in maths, English, science, in sport, recreation and theatre. And so it's about getting the education department in your local community. So if that's a city, have a word with the director of education, and you can do it. Somebody said, well, how do you do it in English? What we did there, we got the students to go out and in pairs and interview a couple with dementia, one person with dementia and their partner, come back and write that up as an English essay and anonymize it, but also give the couple a copy of the anonymized program as a present of what
lovely.
their lives are like. And, you know, that there was friendships developed. And also, I'm not 100% certain of this, but where a school starts to pick up dementia awareness, then the diagnostic rates around that area start to come up. And so they go home and they spread the message, and then to normalize certain things. And so it's a benefit to all. In the villages that we've done this in, they've started with their second year pupils or first year primary, and taking it very gently, going through on what that can mean. And it might mean just a day a month that older people come in, or that the students go out to see and meet them in whatever environment they are in.
And so, that can include, presumably that can include school children going to visit local care homes and meeting people in the care home. Because sometimes people forget that there are whole communities of older people in care homes who nobody ever goes to visit. And if you can build those links with the local school, can be a great way forward.
Yes.
So if anybody who's watching this who wants to make a difference in their community, but they haven't got a dementia-friendly community program, what can an individual do? What would you suggest somebody can do who wants to make a difference?
I think this, it's going to be difficult at the moment in the situation we're in, but I think if you're in a rural community, I've just sent out 10,000 questionnaires to every town and parish council in England, and every one of them, well, not everyone, I think 98% have come back and said they want a dementia-friendly guide. They want to know how they can do it, and what are the issues, etc. So we've written that. We're just waiting for that to be finalized. That's with the National Association of Local Councils. So if you're living in a rural community, go and ask your parish council, go and ask your town council what they're doing about becoming a dementia-friendly organization. If you're living in a city, then go see the Lord Mayor or the leader of the council and say to them, what is this city doing for people with hidden disabilities and dementia? And it's amazing, for simple inputs, you can get massive outputs. It's not masses of money that makes the difference. It's changing the culture of organizations and how people see people with dementia.
And I think that's a great note to end on, Ian. I think that changing culture and making it all feel that people can be included in society, and people as they get older and as they develop dementia have as much right to be part of the community as everybody else, and have a lot to contribute, have a lot of things that we can all learn from each other. So, Ian, I'm going to have to stop you there. We could carry on talking, but it's been fascinating hearing about your own personal journey, what you've achieved everywhere from Plymouth to China. You're making a real difference. So thank you so much for being my guest this afternoon. Thank you for those people who sent questions in. Apologies to those that I didn't get to, but we'll say goodbye to Ian now. And I'll just let you know that next week we're going to widen the agenda. We've been talking a lot about dementia in the last few conversations, but next week we've got Dr. Anna Dixon, the Chief Exec of the Centre for Aging Better, who's going to talk more generally about how we enable older people to live well in the community and to be supported well by us as fellow citizens and by the government. So Ian, thank you once again for joining us this afternoon for a really stimulating conversation. Hope you have a lovely rest of the day. And thank you to everybody who's been watching this afternoon. See you next week.
Thank you, Jeremy. Goodbye and take care, everybody.